My name is Ruth Ellison. I have lived in this yellow house in Maple Ridge, Pennsylvania my entire life. The walls still carry the scent of coffee, rain, and the quiet years that shaped me. That Thursday morning felt no different from 100 others. I made coffee, watered the plants, and listened to the soft ticking of the old wall clock that has marked every season of my life. My 14-year-old granddaughter Lila was supposed to go to school. Instead, she appeared at my door, her small voice trembling. "Grandma, I feel sick. Can I stay home today?" I touched her forehead, barely warm. I smiled and said she could rest. It seemed harmless. I thought she only needed a quiet day. Around noon, while I was upstairs changing my clothes, Lila heard a sound that made her freeze. The click of a key turning in the front door. Someone was coming in. She peeked through her bedroom door and saw him. Her father, Derek Ellison, my son. He looked around quickly, then slipped something small and white into the pocket of my green winter coat hanging by the door. On his phone, he whispered, "It's done. Call the police tonight. She won't understand a thing." Lila covered her mouth, terrified. I was upstairs, unaware that my own son had just betrayed me. I have lived in this house for 67 years. It was built by my grandfather, repaired by my father, and cared for by me. Every corner carries a memory. The yellow paint on the walls, though faded, still warms the rooms each morning. The grandfather clock in the hallway, older than I am, chimes every half hour. It's a sound that has kept me company through every chapter of my life. I married here. I raised my son Derek under this roof. When my husband left, this house became my shelter and my strength. I cleaned other people's homes for 20 years so I could keep this one. Every penny I earned went toward food, school, and Derek's future. I wanted him to have everything I never had. When Derek's wife died 2 years ago, I took in his daughter Lila. She filled the rooms with laughter again. We baked together, read together, planted tomatoes in the backyard. I thought our pain had found peace at last. The neighborhood changed over the years. Coffee shops appeared on every corner. A stranger once offered me $300,000 for the house. I smiled and said no. This isn't just property. It's a lifetime of love, struggle, and survival. It's where every bruise turned into a lesson and every tear turned into strength. After Lila's mother passed away, Derek changed. At first I thought it was grief. He worked long hours, avoided conversations, and rarely looked me in the eyes. But soon something colder appeared in him, distance mixed with resentment. He began visiting less and calling only when he needed something. 3 months ago, he came with a folder in his hand. "Mom, I need you to sign these papers," he said, placing them on the kitchen table. "It's for your protection. If anything ever happens to you, the house will be in safe hands." I put on my glasses and tried to read, but the print was small and my eyes aren't what they used to be. Still, one line caught my attention. It said he would have complete authority over my property and accounts. My heart told me to wait. "I'll look at it later," I said. Derek smiled, but there was irritation behind it. The next week he returned. "Mom, do it for Lila. I just want to make sure she's cared for." His tone was smooth, rehearsed, but I could feel something off. I kept delaying, telling him I needed more time. That was when his kindness began to fade. His eyes hardened, his visits turned into silent interrogations. Every no I gave him seemed to pull him further away from me and closer to whatever plan he was quietly building. That Thursday morning, everything felt calm. The rain had stopped during the night and soft light poured through the kitchen windows. I made coffee the way I always do, strong, without sugar, in the white mug with orange flowers that once belonged to my mother. The smell filled the house, wrapping me in a sense of peace that I didn't know would soon shatter. Lila joined me for breakfast, her hair still messy from sleep. I brewed her favorite Earl Grey tea and toasted bread with butter and a spoonful of homemade strawberry jam. She sat by the window, the one that overlooks the small garden where I grow tomatoes and basil. She looked quiet that morning, thoughtful, distant. I thought she was simply tired. We didn't talk much. After breakfast, I cleaned the kitchen while she watched a movie in the living room. The sound of her laughter mixed with the clinking of dishes and the low hum of the refrigerator. It was an ordinary day. Safe, predictable. By 11, I decided to go upstairs to change out of my cream-colored robe. My knees ached with every step, reminding me of my age, but I smiled anyway. There was comfort in the rhythm of the day, in small routines that had carried me through decades. I didn't know those quiet minutes would be the last normal ones I had. Lila stayed home that morning, curled up on the couch with a blanket and a tablet. The quiet felt safe. Around noon, she heard the metallic click of a key turning in the front lock. At first, she thought it was me returning from the garden, but when she peeked around the corner, she saw her father, Derek Ellison, stepping into the hallway. He looked different, tense, distracted, his eyes scanning the living room like a stranger in his own childhood home. Lila froze behind the door, her heart hammering so hard she thought it would give her away. Derek moved toward the coat rack, glancing over his shoulder twice before reaching into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a small sealed plastic bag filled with something white. Lila didn't understand what it was at first, but her body reacted before her mind could catch up. She stayed perfectly still, her breath caught in her throat. Derek slipped the bag deep into the pocket of my green winter coat, then took out his phone. "It's done," he whispered. "Call the police at 9 tonight. Say there's an old woman hiding drugs in her house. She won't even know what's happening." For a long second, Lila couldn't move. The world tilted, her hands trembling. Her father's voice, so casual and cold, didn't sound human. When he left, she sank to the floor, pressing her palms over her mouth to stop a scream. In that moment, she understood. She wasn't sick at all. She was meant to stay home for a reason. When the front door closed, Lila sat frozen for nearly a minute, trying to steady her breathing. Her hands were shaking so badly that she had to clutch them together. She didn't know what the white powder was, but she knew enough to understand it could ruin everything. Her father had just framed her grandmother, the woman who had raised him, the woman who had saved her. She tiptoed to the coat rack, heart pounding. Her fingers slid into the pocket of the green coat. The bag was still there. She pulled it out carefully and stared at it, horrified. Tiny and weightless, yet heavy enough to destroy 2 lives. Without thinking, she hid it in her own pocket. If the police came, they couldn't find it. Not in Grandma's house, not anywhere near her. Upstairs, she locked her door and sat on her bed. She opened the Notes app on her phone and started typing everything she had seen. The time her father entered, what he said, even the tone of his voice. Then she tested her phone's recorder. It worked. The camera worked too. She made a plan. If her father came back that night, she'd be ready. She didn't have strength or power, but she had something stronger. Proof. And she would use it to protect the only person who had ever truly loved her. That night, the rain returned, tapping against the windows like impatient fingers. I was sitting in the living room knitting beside the lamp when the doorbell rang. It was Derek. He stood on the porch, soaked and tense, his face wearing an expression I hadn't seen in years. Forced warmth hiding quiet rage. "Mom," he said, stepping inside before I could answer, "we need to talk." He started gently, saying he wanted to make peace, that families shouldn't fight over paperwork. Then his tone shifted. "I'm short on money, Mom. 50,000 would solve everything. I just need your help this one time." I looked at him carefully. His clothes were damp, his eyes restless. I asked, "Why now, Derek? What's so urgent?" His voice rose, sharp and defensive. "Why do you always have to question me? I'm your son. Isn't that enough?" Behind the wall, Lila held her phone, recording everything. She stayed still, the red light hidden under her sleeve. Derek's voice grew louder, his words spilling anger he could no longer hide. Then, just as quickly, he calmed himself, forcing a smile. "Think about it," he said, heading for the door. "You'll regret it if you don't." When he left, the room felt colder. I didn't know what was coming at 9 o'clock, but Leela did. She had seen the storm gathering long before I felt its rain. After Derek left, the house went silent except for the sound of the rain. I sat on the sofa, staring at the green coat by the door without knowing why it suddenly made me uneasy. Lila came down the stairs quietly, her face pale but determined. "Grandma," she said, "there's something you need to know." Her voice trembled as she told me everything, what she had seen, what her father had said, and what was hidden in my coat. My heart pounded so hard I thought I might faint. "My son!" "Where is it now?" I whispered. Lila reached into her pocket and pulled out the small bag. She had saved me, without even realizing how much danger she was in. "We have to get rid of it," I said. "Now." We wrapped the bag in a kitchen towel, then slipped out the back door into the pouring rain. The ground was soft. Together, we dug a small hole near the tomato plants and buried it deep. Mud splashed onto our clothes, but we didn't care. When we came back inside, the clock showed 8:55. We barely had time to change before the doorbell rang again, loud, urgent, commanding. Through the window, I saw 2 police officers standing in the rain. One was an older man, the other a young woman, taking notes. "Good evening, ma'am," the man said. "We received an anonymous report about illegal substances at this address." My hands were trembling, but I opened the door anyway. The officers entered politely but firmly. The older one introduced himself as Sergeant Alan Cooper. His partner began looking around the living room while he asked simple questions. "Do you live alone, ma'am?" "No," I said, keeping my voice steady. "My granddaughter lives with me. She's in the other room. Are you aware of any drugs or suspicious materials in this house?" "None," I replied. "You're welcome to check anywhere you like." They exchanged a quick glance, perhaps surprised by how calm I was. For 30 minutes they searched, under cushions, inside cabinets, even in my bedroom closet. They found nothing. Finally, Sergeant Cooper sighed. "Seems like a false call, ma'am. Sorry for the disturbance." When the door closed behind them, I let out the breath I'd been holding. Lila rushed to hug me, whispering, "They didn't find anything, we're safe." But before I could respond, the sound of another key in the lock froze us both. The door burst open. Derek stepped inside, eyes wild. He looked around expecting police. His voice shook with anger. "Where are they? What happened?" "They left," I said quietly. "They didn't find anything because there was nothing to find." He stared at me, disbelief turning into panic. "That's impossible. I put it there myself." The moment the words left his mouth, silence filled the room. He realized what he'd just confessed. And then, from the corner of the room, Lila raised her phone. The red recording light glowed in the dark. Derek's face went pale when he saw the phone in Lila's hand. His lips parted, but no words came out. For the first time, he looked smaller than I remembered, like a boy caught in the act, stripped of excuses. "Dad," Leela said softly, her voice steady. "You were going to ruin Grandma's life. You almost did." He tried to reach for her, but I stepped between them. "Don't touch her," I said. My voice didn't shake this time. "Get out, Derek. Right now." He hesitated, eyes flicking from me to the phone. Then he turned and walked out without another word. The door slammed behind him, leaving a heavy silence. That night, Lila backed up the recording to the cloud, sent a copy to my email, and saved one on a flash drive. The next morning, we went to the police station together. Sergeant Cooper introduced us to Detective Mariah Clark, a calm woman with sharp eyes who listened carefully as Lila explained everything from the beginning. We handed her the recording, the screenshots of the call logs, and even the towel we'd used to bury the bag. She promised they would collect it and test it for fingerprints. "Mrs. Ellison," she said gently, "you and your granddaughter did the right thing. Most people panic or stay silent. You gathered evidence. That makes all the difference." For the first time in days, I felt something close to peace. I wasn't weak. I wasn't powerless. I was finally standing up for myself and for Leila. Within a week, Detective Clark called. The lab confirmed that Derek's fingerprints were all over the plastic bag. The voice analysis from the recording matched his phone call, and the phone records traced directly to Brooke Delgado, his girlfriend. Together, they had planned the setup, hoping to have me arrested so the house would legally fall into Derek's control. 2 officers came to the house one afternoon to update us. "We've issued 2 warrants," one said, "one for Derek Ellison, one for Brooke Delgado." I felt my knees weaken. "So it's really happening," I whispered. "Yes, ma'am," he replied. "They won't be able to hurt you again." The arrests made local news. Neighbors I'd known for years stopped by with casseroles and kind words. Some couldn't believe Derek could do something so cruel. Others said they had noticed the way he'd changed, but hadn't known how bad it had become. In court, I sat beside Lila, her small hand holding mine. The defense tried to paint Derek as a desperate man who made a mistake under financial pressure, but the evidence was undeniable. Fingerprints, voice messages, text exchanges with Brooke discussing how to get rid of the old lady. Brooke broke first. Crying on the stand, she admitted everything, claiming Derek had convinced her it was harmless, that I'd just be questioned, not jailed, but intent mattered. Judge Harold Whitman's ruling was firm. Derek Ellison was found guilty of conspiracy, elder abuse, and filing a false report. He was sentenced to 8 years in prison, with no parole for the first 4. Brooke received 5 years and mandatory counseling. When the verdict was read, I didn't cheer. I just closed my eyes, letting the tears fall quietly. Justice wasn't joy. It was relief. After the trial, the house finally felt quiet again, peaceful in a way it hadn't for months. I started waking up early, opening the curtains to let in the morning light, listening to the sound of birds on the roof. For the first time in a long while, silence didn't feel heavy. It felt like healing. Leila and I began rebuilding our days together. We baked on weekends, walked to the farmer's market, and even repainted the kitchen a softer shade of yellow. Each brushstroke felt like reclaiming something Derek had tried to take away. Our safety, our trust, our joy. Detective Clark visited once more to check on us. She handed me a brochure for a local support group for victims of elder fraud and said, "You'd be surprised how many people have gone through what you did." Traveling to other meetings, listening to others, women, men, even couples, tell their stories helped me realize I wasn't alone. Shame faded with every shared word. With my lawyer's help, I updated my will. The house now belongs to Lila, clear and unquestionable. Copies are stored safely in 3 places. Lila even started a drama club at school and got the lead role, a detective. When I watched her rehearse Strong and Fearless, I thought to myself, she didn't just save my home, she saved my hope. Looking back now, I realize that love can blind us to danger. I thought saying yes to my son meant keeping peace in the family, but sometimes love requires boundaries, even when they hurt. Protecting yourself doesn't mean you've stopped caring. It means you've started respecting your own worth. If you're listening to this and something feels wrong in your own life, please remember this. Trust your instincts. The quiet voice inside you is rarely wrong. If someone pressures you to sign something you don't understand, pause, ask questions, bring a friend, a neighbor, or a lawyer. Never be ashamed to seek help. Keep records, times, messages, strange calls. One note can save you months of pain. And if you ever face a moment where fear tells you to stay silent, remember Leila. She was just 14, but she understood something powerful. Truth is the strongest form of courage. I used to believe family love meant always forgiving. Now I know love also means knowing when to say. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video and share it with someone who might need it. And in the comments, tell me, what's one boundary you're proud you kept? Your story might give someone else the strength to do the same.